My childhood sweetheart, to whom I'd been engaged for years, kept a mistress. When I found out, I resolutely broke off the engagement. He came to beg for forgiveness, sent away the mistress, aborted her child, and begged me to change my mind. Without looking back, I married into the prince's manor as his second wife. Since I couldn't have true love, I'd settle for plenty of money and high status. On my wedding day, my childhood sweetheart, haggard and wasted, asked me, "It is normal for men to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. You can tolerate all those women in his household. So why did you sentence me to death and abandon me over just one mistake?" Why, while I was embroidering my wedding dress in the manor, my wet nurse came to tell me that all the gold thread in every shop in the capital had been bought up by some woman. I frowned at the empty spaces on the wedding dress. Everyone knows that Shui Tingyuan and I are preparing for our wedding. Who else would make trouble at a time like this? My wet nurse comforted me. "Miss, don't be upset. All men are the same. She is just some shameful little bird on the side. Not worth bothering about. It is beneath you." I pulled my lips into a smile. "Wet nurse, Shui Tingyuan isn't just any man. He is someone I've loved for many years. Anyone else could do this, but not him, because all I asked of him was his true heart, yet he turned out to be so disappointing. I didn't go looking for that woman. She put on such a haughty display, wasn't it, just to lure me to meet her, but she is not worthy, and I wasn't willing to lower myself. In the evening, my childhood friend Shui Tingjuan brought my favorite pastries to see me. I said in a flat tone, "I injured my hand, so I can't embroider the wedding dress anymore." He smiled and said, "That is not a big deal, I'll do it." That night, he took the wedding dress to the embroidery workshop, and I called my brother, who had just returned from patrol, and followed him there, separated by a screen. I saw Shui Tinyuan with a cold face, asking that woman, "A Yuan, didn't I tell you to behave yourself lately?" So her name was a Yuan. So he liked this type of woman, delicate, slender, and charming, completely opposite to me. A Yuan cried and made a fuss, and seeing him unmoved, she wiped her tears grievously. But I am pregnant. When a woman is carrying a child, she can't control her emotions. Seeing her so happily preparing for your wedding, I feel so sad. Shui Tinjuan still spoke in a mocking tone, but his gaze involuntarily softened. "She is my fiancé, my childhood sweetheart who grew up with me, my only wife from now on. A Yuan, don't let this happen again." A Yuan threw herself into his arms, sobbing and complaining jealously. "How can you be so good to her? My heart is breaking, unable to bear it any longer." My brother kicked over the screen before I could. Under Shui Tinjuan's shocked gaze, my brother furiously kicked him to the ground. A Yuan covered her mouth and screamed beside them, and I slowly took my seat. I looked at a Yuan coldly. "Your hospitality isn't very good. A guest has arrived, yet you don't even know to pour tea." She sobbed uncontrollably, kneeling down and crying as she begged me to spare Shui Tingyuan. "Miss Yuan, whether you are putting on an act or truly afraid, this is the proper way for you to face me. You should be kneeling when you speak to me." Your resentment and hatred flashed in her eyes. "Yes, you are the general's legitimate daughter. How could a lowly embroiderer like me be worthy of standing while speaking to you? And then kneel properly." I ignored her tear-filled eyes and slowly sipped my tea. Shui Tinjuan had been beaten black and blue by my brother. He collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath, looking at me with pleading and panicked eyes, trying to get close to me, but my brother kicked him away. He called out to me, "Little sister Asheng, please forgive me." I looked down at him, my heart filled with mixed emotions. There was the heartbreaking pain, but more than that was anger. An anger that made me extremely calm, not only toward him but also toward myself. Years of affection, what I thought was deep, he made me realize I'd misjudged him. I took out the marriage contract and threw it in his face. His pupils constricted sharply, his voice breaking. "Don't," I looked at him coldly with scrutiny. "Shu Tingyuan, I am very disappointed in you." My brother escorted a Yuan back to the residence, When father and mother learned the whole story, they trembled with rage. Shui Tinyuan's parents were both summoned over. They were utterly ashamed and apologized repeatedly. When Shui Tinyuan rushed over in a hurry, the matter of breaking off the engagement had already been concluded. His eyes were about to split with fury. I don't agree. His father's eyes turned red with anger, and he slapped him across the face. You are unwilling. If you are unwilling, why did you keep a mistress before the wedding? Why did you humiliate your fiancé and your in-laws? Shui Tinyuan, accept the consequences of your own actions. You've already come of age. This fault is yours. In front of your elders, relatives, colleagues, and friends. You will admit it yourself. This is your duty and responsibility. The very next morning, everyone knew that Shui Tinyuan and I had broken off our engagement, and those seeking to marry me broke down the door with their proposals. Shui Tinyuan knelt outside my family's gate, stripped to the waist, carrying thorned branches to beg forgiveness, pleading for my pardon. He said he had already aborted the child in a Yuan's belly and sent her away outside the city. I looked at this face I had loved for so many years and sighed with some weariness. Shui Tinyuan, she is your woman, and she is carrying your child. If you had kept protecting her and taken responsibility for her and the child in her belly, though I would be heartbroken, I would still think you had a sense of duty, at least you'd still be a man. But what you are doing now only makes me despise you. I not only despise you, but I also despise my own judgment for ever having taken a liking to you. I could accept him openly, and honestly falling for someone else, at least I'd respect him for being straightforward. But I cannot accept this way he is handling things. I look down on him. My marriage cannot be delayed. Author-wise, my name will be submitted for the draft selection in the second half of the year. The emperor is already old, and his children are all grown. Marrying such an emperor has no cost-benefit ratio. Mother pointed at the portrait of Prince Jing'an and said to me, although your cousin isn't His Majesty's most favored prince, he was raised by your father. With both blood ties and gratitude binding you, if you marry him as his second wife and win his heart, you'll have a harmonious marriage for life, with both wealth and power at your disposal. If you can't win his heart, falling back to the last resort, you are still cousins with familial affection between you no matter what. He won't treat you poorly. Sheng, you are holding Chen Ajiao's cards. Marrying him is your best choice. I nodded, understanding this was the best path Mother had chosen for me. She didn't want me to gamble on a man's true heart again. She only wanted me to have power, influence, wealth, and leisure to live my life freely and happily. Mother understands so well. She doesn't want her daughter to be consumed and conflicted in relationships. She just wants her to live freely and have the power to choose, without having to look at others' faces. This way of protecting her daughter is really so touching. Compared to find someone who loves you, what Mother wants to give her daughter more is the confidence that even if no one loves you, you can still live well. Love may betray you, but money and power will never let you lose too badly. Prince Jing'an Shaolinan is 3 years older than me. His residence is filled with a bunch of beauties sent by others, and he also has several concubines who are equally well-born. Father disagreed with Mother's choice. He believed that people like Shui Tinyuan are just a minority in this world. Even though Shaolinan is the most powerful heir to the throne, the imperial palace is a place of fame and fortune. How can money and power compare to one person's heart? How could you women understand the feeling of being lonely at the top? With my current official position and power, finding a young man for a Sheng, whose family background is unremarkable and who needs to rely on our family to be with her for life, this is simply not a difficult matter. How can a Sheng give up eating for fear of choking, just because she experienced Shui Tinyuan's change of heart? She thinks all men in this world are like this. Mother said coldly, Husband, you should first count how many women you've shared a bed with inside and outside the house all these years. Marrying into a family whose status and background are inferior to ours, what they'll love won't be my daughter at all, but the benefits brought by you as their father-in-law. As for Ashing's marriage, Ashing herself has agreed to it. As her mother, would I ever harm my own daughter? Father was left speechless. On the day of my marriage, gongs and drums resounded. Even though the Shui family had locked Shui Tinyuan up, he still managed to sneak out on his own. He was wasted away to skin and bones, so thin I could barely recognize him. Over these years, aside from when he was away on official business, we saw each other almost every day. No, after only half a year apart, it felt as if he and I were separated by lifetimes. The familiarity of the past had vanished, replaced by a sense of strangeness filling my heart. He asked me with a pale face. It is common for men to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. You can tolerate all those women in his household. So why is it that just once for me, and you pass a death sentence and abandon me? Why? I sighed inwardly but didn't answer him. Mother was right, gambling on a man's sincerity once is enough. Aunts, you've tasted enough pain and hatred. Your heart can harden like iron. Ascension. Don't regret this. I silently lowered my bridal veil. Without looking back, I left Shui Tingyuan's side. The wedding ceremony and bridal chamber procedures were tedious. The wet nurse had already told me the procedures a few days in advance. But when I was actually sitting on the bridal bed, waiting for Xiaolinan to come, my heart still felt somewhat anxious. The man walked in from outside, his steps steady. The moment the door closed, I seemed to smell blood again. During those years I followed my father at the border. I had a nodding acquaintance with him. I've seen him kill people and shoot tigers. My intuition and judgment have always been accurate. From the first moment I saw him, I knew the next emperor would definitely be him. Xiaolinan lifted my veil and looked down at me from above. Lift your head. I met his gaze directly with my heavy makeup on. I wasn't afraid of him. My family background was also illustrious. No matter what, he had to give me face. This was the confidence my paternal and maternal clans brought me. The next day, he got up refreshed and in high spirits, but I had dark circles under my eyes and weak, unsteady steps. When several side consorts and those warblers and swallows who were sent over came to pay respects, I was so dizzy I could barely make out who was who. I was silently cursing Xiaolinan in my mind, when suddenly an indignant, shrill voice reached my ears. If the princess consort is unwell, then rest. I am willing to continue managing the household affairs of the manor. I raised my eyes to look at side consort Shui, who had spoken. She was Shui Tingyuan's older sister, Shu Shu, and also Xiaolinan's most favored side consort. Ever since Xiaolinan's former princess consort died, the household affairs of the manor had all been managed by her. I curved my lips and laughed softly. It was a mocking laugh. Her expression turned ugly. What is the princess consort laughing at? I smiled openly and said, I am naturally happy about it, since concubine Shui is willing to keep doing it for me. That couldn't be better. She snorted and sat back down smugly. After everyone left, only she and I remained in the hall. She looked at me with contempt. You already had your eye on the prince when you were at the military camp, didn't you? My brother gave up even the princess for you, Song Sheng. You are not worthy of him at all. Her eyes were red-rimmed as she glared at me resentfully, looking like she wanted to flay me alive. I laughed mockingly. The way you are so angry and furious. I think I was the one who kept a mistress before marriage and got her pregnant. Even the son of a 7th-rank minor official knows that before the legitimate wife enters the household, there can't be any dirty business. Yet a noble young master from a marquis family doesn't know this. Truly fucking outrageous beyond measure, not a shred of upbringing. She furiously rushed at me to hit me, but was frightened into kneeling on the ground by the cold voice from behind. What are you doing? Xiaolinan naturally sat down beside me. I took the official hat he removed and handed it to the maid, then poured him a cup of hot tea. The degree of practiced understanding between us didn't seem like newlyweds, but rather like lovers of many years. Shui Shu knelt on the ground, glanced at me unwillingly, then turned to look at Xiaolinan with biting lips and said with a smile, This concubine and the princess consort are old acquaintances. Just now I merely tripped and nearly fell onto the princess consort. Xiaolinan's expression was ice cold. His slender fingertips tapped the body of the teacup. Then he lifted his eyelids and looked at me with an indifferent gaze. You speak. I nodded meekly. Xiaolinan's face darkened, and he threw the cup in his hand. This prince hates deception the most. The princess consort just entered the manor and doesn't understand. But a Shu, do you not understand either? Shu Shu involuntarily straightened her kneeling body, her eyes instantly reddening. This concubine was merely feeling indignant for my younger brother. Xiaolinan said mockingly. Your brother's marriage arrangement with the Song family was already your family reaching above your station. Do you think you know why he had smooth sailing in the court after the imperial examinations, while Jinshi, who ranked even higher than him, were all sent to posts outside the capital? Yet he alone became a capital official, having gained the benefits of this marriage arrangement, yet doing such disgraceful things before the wedding to slap the Song family in the face. He is not putting my uncle in his eyes, and even less so putting me in his eyes. Shishu's tears fell like rain. She only just married in yesterday, and you are already so biased toward her. A trace of viciousness flashed through Xiaolinan's eyes. I quickly laughed cheerfully to smooth things over. The concubine is unwell, she should return to rest first. Shui Shu bit her lip, looking at Xiaolinan with a pitiful expression. Xiaolinan waved his hand with a headache. Do as the princess consort says, go down now. Shui Shu seemed to have suffered a blow, and could no longer hold back her sobbing as she was helped out. Everyone in the room was dismissed by Xiaolinan. He said to me helplessly, I've spoiled Ashu. She is straightforward and speaks without a filter, but her heart isn't bad. With him saying that, what else could I say? I know, I won't make things difficult for you. He nodded. Cousin has always been sensible. After he left, the wet nurse happily said to me, They all say the prince has favored concubine Shui greatly these years. Clearly the other concubines are superior to her in both family background and temperament, yet the prince still lets her manage the household, trampling those ladies' faces in the dirt. I thought you'd have to suffer some grievances, miss. But unexpectedly, on just the first day, the prince actually blamed her for your sake. I indifferently took a sip of tea, not even lifting my eyes. Nanny, you've got it wrong. Xiaolinan was angry today because of Shu Tinjuan's matter, not standing up for me, but because half of the blood flowing in his body is from the Song family. He was raised at the border by my father since childhood, and the close friends and life and death subordinates around him are all Song family people. Rather than saying he was standing up for me, it is more accurate to say he was standing up for the Song family, standing up for his own face. Those words he used to blame Shui Shu, which part of them was actually about Shui Shu. Shui Shu has been married to him for 5 or 6 years already. She left the Shui family long ago. What he blames is nothing more than the Shui family behind Shui Shu. If I were to think Shui Shu doesn't have his heart because of this, and go looking for trouble with Shui Shu, that would be courting death. The nanny's face, which had just shown a hint of joy, sank again, and she said anxiously, Are we really going to let a mere concubine control the household management of the prince's manor? You need to think of a way to make the prince's heart move toward you. I smiled. It is just the household management of a prince's manor. What is there to fight over? The dowry my parents prepared for me, I couldn't spend it all in 10 lifetimes. If he treats me well, we'll live together with mutual respect. If not, I'll just live alone with my piles of money. I had the nanny pick out a pair of jade ruyi from my dowry to send over to appease Shui Shu. Before the nanny could even leave her courtyard gate, she had already smashed the jade ruyi. The maid by her side cursed. Bah, sending all kinds of dirty and smelly things to our side consort's courtyard in the past. What good things hasn't the prince given us? There are so many things of better quality than this. These words were really just looking for trouble. Better quality than mine. There really isn't any. This came from the palace, selected through layers of screening among the common folk. When the things got smashed, I felt bad for a few seconds, but I wasn't angry. But it really pissed off the wet nurse. If I hadn't warned her in advance, I am afraid that when Xiaolinan came to my room before his butt even touched the seat, she would have started complaining. But how could she not think about it? This is Prince Jing'an's manor, Xiaolinan's residence. What matter in this manor could escape the eyes of him, the master of the house? It only depends on whether he is willing to ask or wants to punish. Clearly, Xiaolinan didn't want to punish Shui Shu. All the way until bedtime, I didn't bring up this matter, and neither did he. The next day at noon, after he returned from court, he brought me a pair of jade ruyi. Although the quality wasn't as good as my pair, it was still quite nice. I happily accepted them. Thank you, cousin, he sighed, looking at me with a rare hint of guilt. I deeply understand the consequences of discord in the inner quarters, but both you and I have lived under Uncle's strict rules since childhood. We're like we've been set in a mold, lifeless and dull in this capital city. I understand better than anyone how inappropriate Ashu's personality is. But when I see her being spoiled, willful, and throwing tantrums regardless of the occasion, I don't feel much anger in my heart. I envy her, and I also like her this way. Cousin, can you understand me? I smiled and nodded. I understand, cousin. You are someone who is going to do great things. These trivial matters in the inner quarters, I won't hold them against her. You and I are family, cousin. Only when you are doing well will the Song family prosper, and only then can I prosper alongside you. The fact that Shui Shu can make you happy is already extremely important. When cousin is in good spirits, you'll be in a good mood. And when you are in a good mood, you can get things done. I absolutely won't put you in a difficult position. Xiaolinan took a deep breath and gratefully squeezed my hand. When Shui Shu came running and crying, what she saw was precisely this scene of marital affection. She rushed over recklessly, even wanting to get physical with me. I merely accidentally broke the jade rouyi she sent over, and you cut out my personal maid's tongue. Don't you know she and I are as close as sisters? How could you be so cruel? I kept my mouth shut and said nothing, only trying hard to minimize my presence. She shouldn't have said that bit about being as close as sisters. Xiaolinan and I are actually real cousins. It is one thing for her to scold me a couple times, but what is her maid to dare scold me too? There is no way in hell Xiaolinan would let that maid off. Xiaolinan looked at her coldly, a trace of faint disappointment in his eyes. I've indeed been too indulgent with you, indulging you to the point where you don't know your place, and even the servants around you follow your example. Tomorrow I'll request a palace matron to come teach you proper etiquette. Shui Shu was thunderstruck. She couldn't understand why, after all these years of running wild in the prince's manor, her maids had always been able to use her influence to bully others. It wasn't that Xiaolinan didn't know, but why, when it came to me, it wasn't allowed anymore. Endless grievance welled up in her eyes, and finally, she asked in a trembling voice, "Have you fallen in love with her? You don't love me anymore, do you? I am not the one you love most anymore, am I?" I almost spat out my tea, and Xiaolinan's face turned completely dark. The day of returning to the bride's family home was supposed to be a happy occasion, but when Xiaolinan saw the gifts Shui Shu had prepared for returning to my family, the slight joy in his eyes instantly vanished. Has Prince Jingen's manor run out of money, or have you gone mad from poverty? A barrage of interrogation made Shui Shu lose all face in front of the servants. What is wrong with these? When you accompanied me and the other concubines back to our families, it was always these things. The princess consort comes from a noble family. But don't we as well? Does your highness intend to show favoritism? Xiaolinan laughed in anger. You also know that she is the princess consort, and you are concubines. How absurd. Steward, go to the storehouse and wrap up that South Sea Guanyin statue, and also wrap up that precious sword I newly acquired and bring them here. Shui Shu grabbed his hand, glared at me, and said in a lowered voice, "You are crazy. The Guanyin statue is what you prepared as a birthday gift for the Empress Dowager, and the sword is what you prepared to present to His Majesty." Xiaolinan's face turned ashen as he shook off her hand. "You better reflect on yourself properly." As if she could reflect on anything fat chance. She was a concubine-born daughter in the family, never favoured to begin with. When she studied at the girls' academy, she ranked last in every subject. Her other sisters were all married off as principal wives to members of her father's political faction. Only she was sent to the prince's manor as a plaything, a beauty, no different from the singing girls in the household. If it weren't for her exceptionally beautiful face, plus her personality happening to suit Xiaolinan's taste, she could never have climbed to the position of secondary consort. Xiaolinan said he loved her, but really it was like keeping a pet that suited his fancy. He never tried to understand her past, nor did he ever try to comprehend her world and thoughts. He mingled in the imperial court, had seen plenty of clever people, and always spoke in ways that required others to guess his meaning. Why didn't he consider whether Shui Shu's intelligence could figure it out? Nanny couldn't help but feel indignant on my behalf. Your Highness, you spoil secondary consort Shui too much? My face turned cold as I rebuked her. Is it your place to comment on His Highness's affairs? Nanny, you've overstepped leave. My rare stern and harsh tone made Nanny immediately kowtow in apology. Xiaolinan was surprised for a moment. After boarding the carriage, he said, The wet nurse is the person closest to you. You shouldn't scold her in front of so many people and make her lose face. What she said wasn't wrong either. Old servants in noble households, even their masters must show them some respect, I said in a calm voice. She is indeed the person closest to me, but she is also a servant of my household. You are my husband, the master. She can speak to you privately, but she shouldn't question you in public. She overstepped her bounds, which means I, as the master, failed to discipline her properly. I shouldn't receive my monthly allowance for the next few months. I should accept this punishment. Is it necessary to go this far? I knew Xiaolinan was thinking of Shui Shu. He thought I was reminding him that I was making an example to warn others. This move is absolutely brilliant. She gave the prince full face while quietly establishing the rules, letting everyone know that affection cannot override statuses. No one can act presumptuously just because they're close. And she understands Xiaolinan so well, already guessing he'd associate this with Shui Shu and think she is making an example to warn others. But the female lead doesn't argue or expose this. She just uses actions to convey her attitude. This kind of understated yet powerful counterattack is far more effective than direct confrontation. In fact, I indeed was. Cousin on the battlefield, you are a general praised by all. You manage your subordinates strictly with clear rewards and punishments. So with such leadership by example, everything is in perfect order. Is it just because you like her? You are also well aware that the manor's accounts are a mess, but you don't care, because you think these things are trivial matters. Money means nothing to you. So what does it matter how much Shui Shu squanders? No matter what happens, the Song family is there. You always have a way out, so you are in no hurry, letting her spend recklessly and overstep her bounds as she pleases. My gaze was cold, my tone calm, yet I tore away the fig leaf. Xiaolinan took a deep breath. He gripped my hand and asked me, Why are you being so sharp today? Ashu was wrong about the return visit gifts. I'll talk to her about it. Fighting over jealousy isn't like you at all. I raised my eyebrows slightly. Cousin, there is no need to make light of this matter. I have no need to fight with her over jealousy. She was wrong about the return visit gifts. What makes me angry is that she'll make you and me lose face, and will turn the Song family into gossip fodder for others. Cousin, do you really not understand? The one most at fault in this matter is you, not Shui Shu. Without your indulgence and tolerance, how would she dare to act this way? I pulled my hand back bit by bit. Mother had me marry you because you are my father's only nephew, and he doted on you more than his own son. Whether the Song family wants to or not, we must support you in ascending to the throne. And since you've enjoyed the Song family's wealth and support, you should work hard to give the Song family and the ministers who support you a good outcome. Actually, I am quite curious, why would you think I was angry because I was jealous of Shui Shu? Could it be that in your eyes, women only get angry because of men? Xiaolinan was stunned and shocked, as if my words had struck him dumb. No one has ever dared to speak to me like this, including your father. I smiled faintly. Cousin, I don't care about your inner chambers or who you dote on, but if it affects the reputation of the prince's manor, your future prospects and the Song family, then that is unacceptable. This is my bottom line. The meal for the homecoming visit went quite well, without the reproach Xiaolinan had imagined. I was raised by father and mother. They understood my capabilities and temperament, and knew I wouldn't let myself suffer losses. On the way back, father took out 2 gifts for me, which I passed on to Xiaolinan. This one is to be presented to the Empress Dowager on her birthday. This one is to be offered to His Majesty. Xiaolinan's face burned with embarrassment. He deflated and apologized to me. Asheng, I am sorry. After returning, he sent over the household management authority, looking at the red mark on his neck. I couldn't help but find it amusing. He awkwardly rubbed his nose. I asked the question up front. Now that you've given me the household management authority, does that mean all matters in the manor are entrusted to me? Do all the people, including your concubines, answer to me? Can I punish them? Xiaolinan said with a smile. If you trust someone, use them. If you doubt them, don't. Since I am entrusting this to you, naturally you have full authority. Good. I looked at him. Concubine Shui attacked the prince, committing insubordination, punishing her with 1 month of confinement. Is that too severe? The wound on Xiaolinan's neck was glaring. He understood in his heart that his excessive indulgence of Shui Shu had caused her temper to grow increasingly worse. If he didn't rein her in now, she would surely cause great trouble in the future. Not severe at all. The princess consort should decide as she sees fit. Overnight, the atmosphere in the prince's manor completely changed. Shui Shu was taken by my people to be confined in the worst courtyard in the manor. As she was being taken away, she was still cursing me with foul language. I specifically had the wet nurse escort her, and she received quite a few slaps from the wet nurse along the way. I didn't want to do anything drastic to her, but I needed to make her understand propriety and rules. All the ill-mannered maids and servants in Shui Shu's courtyard were sent by me to the estate to do hard labor. Xiaolinan said, just sell them off. Why go through all this trouble? I replied, Shui Shu has controlled the inner household for these past few years and has done plenty of shady things. If we sell them off and word gets out, it will only harm you. Keeping them at the estate, letting them toil for a few years, with their contracts still held by the manor, will only make them accept their fate. Xiaolinan nodded. You've done very well. After making an example of the servants in Shui Shu's courtyard, the manor became much more orderly, and the quarrels and fights that used to happen were no more. Apart from what his aunt left him, the property in Xiaolinan's hands consisted of the estates and shops His Majesty bestowed upon him after each victorious battle. The mess of bad accounts was giving people headaches trying to sort through them. For the sake of my health, I transferred a few managers from my own shops to help. In 7 days' time, all the accounts were sorted out. Xiaolinan looked at the deficit accounts and flew into a rage. So much money just gone like that. What did she do with it? Ah Sheng, did you tamper with the books? I've already followed your advice and confined her. There is no need to go this far. I laughed in anger. Your Highness can have your own people check it over. He said it wasn't necessary, but still had his own people check it over anyway. Nanny said with a chilled heart. Miss, did you marry the wrong person? I shook my head. No, just as you taught me. All men are like this. He hasn't done anything wrong. People favor those they love. It is human nature. If I'd married someone else, the outcome might not be better than now. Nanny wiped away her tears. Miss, why can't you meet someone who truly cares for you? I smiled gently. I have met one. Men's sincerity is always temporary, like how Xue Tingjuan treated me back then, like how Xiaolinan treats Xue Shu now. Having experienced it is enough. No need to demand it last forever. When Xiaolinan came again a few days later, he said nothing else, only one sentence. Shui Shu is confined for 3 months. From now on, all matters big and small in the household will be managed by you. I won't interfere again. An expected result, nothing more. Nothing special. When Shui Shu was released, 4 months had already passed. The manor had changed its appearance, and the shops outside had all started to turn a profit, higher each month than the last. Xiaolinan had requested a nanny from the palace specifically to teach her etiquette and rules, making her learn everything she hadn't properly learned in classes over the previous years. Although 4 months wasn't long compared to before, she had lost some of her frivolousness. On the 4th night after she came out, Xiaolinan went to rest in her courtyard. The wet nurse said, She managed the manor like this, yet the prince let her off so lightly, and now he is gone to her room again. I stroked my belly and yawned. Xiaolinan simply hasn't learned his lesson enough. If the consequences Shui Shu brings him become severe enough that he can't accept them, no matter how beautiful she is, he will abandon her. Wet nurse, you are my confidant. In the future, if Xiaolinan becomes emperor, who knows how many women like Shueishu will enter the palace. You must get used to it. But miss, can you get used to it? I smiled, naturally. He is not in my heart, so whether it is 1,000 or 10,000 women, as long as they don't affect my and my child's position, they have nothing to do with me. The next day after morning court, Xiaolinan came to find me. Do you know that Shu is 4 months pregnant? I truly didn't know this. What kind of princess consort are you? She is pregnant, and you didn't even know yet. You still had the nanny teach her etiquette so harshly. I frowned in disgust. Suddenly felt like killing Xiaolinan. I touched my lower abdomen and held back. This is indeed my fault. Cousin, don't be angry. I'll have the imperial physician come diagnose her right away. Xiaolinan flicked his sleeves and left. I had someone investigate. And Shueishu's child is indeed Xiaolinan's for several days in a row. Shueishu was so obedient and virtuous it was unbelievable. She even proactively told Xiaolinan to go sleep at the other concubines' places. The wet nurse couldn't sit still anymore. What exactly does she want? I didn't even lift my head. Can stupid people become smart just by getting pregnant with her personality? How many more days can she endure? After the Shui family learned that Shueishu was pregnant, they wanted to bring Shueishu back home to stay for a few days. When she came back, she actually brought a yuan back with her. I drank the tea in my hand, looking at her. Why did you bring your brother's concubine here? Shishu said with a smile. The princess doesn't know. But my brother's concubine is skillful and dexterous, not only the best embroiderer in Chang'an City, but also has excellent culinary skills. I've gotten used to eating her cooking these past few days. I have no appetite for anything else. The prince knows about this too. I rolled my eyes. Fine, from now on, let her be in charge of the meals for the women in the household. Since she cooks so well, everyone should have this good fortune. The smile on a yuan's face instantly disappeared. This concubine is not a cook. I glanced at her and said bluntly, you are certainly not. A cook is from a respectable family, but you came from a brothel. What business do you have joining in the fun? If you two keep stirring up trouble for me, I'll have my brother take your brothel contract and impeach Shui Tingyuan. A yuan was furious and flustered. So you went to Mama first and took it away. What a vicious heart you have. Shui Lang treated you with genuine sincerity. How could you treat him like this? Shu pulled her back. Shut up and go back. A yuan was sent back to the Shui family. Shu returned to her room unwillingly, and that very night she had vaginal bleeding. Xiaolinan asked me wearily, Sheng, can you really not tolerate her? Even if not for her sake, for the sake of my child, can't you endure it? I looked at Shueishu's smug expression, knelt down and pleaded guilty. It was my inadequate care. I beg your highness to punish me. After saying this, I fainted. After the imperial physician came, he discovered I was 3 months pregnant. When this news reached Shueishu, she was so angry she smashed quite a few antiques. The wet nurse said worriedly, Miss, didn't we agree to announce it after 5 months? It is only 3 months now. What if something goes wrong? I sneered. Xiaolinan has no heir. Now that Shueishu is pregnant, he naturally treasures it immensely. Even if I did nothing wrong, he would still think it was my fault. I don't want to be stuck here as cannon fodder in their love-hate drama. Now that I am already pregnant, it doesn't matter whether he is around or not. Wet nurse, let's wait to go home. I started having morning sickness every day and couldn't eat compared to Shueishu's child. The child in my womb is the legitimate bloodline. Xiaolinan was anxious every day. Even His Majesty inquired about this matter. Mother arrived in time and said a few words that left Xiaolinan speechless. Your mother passed away early, and there is no one in the manor who can take care of pregnant women. Now that 2 people are pregnant at once, how can you have the energy to look after both? Sheng is my own daughter, surely I wouldn't harm her, would I? The Song Manor is her home. We will naturally take precious care of her. Just like that, I smoothly returned to the manor. Mother sent me to a mountain villa in the suburbs of the capital to recuperate properly, but on the second day after arriving, I ran into Shui Ting Yuan. Seeing him, I remembered that this was the place he patrolled daily for official duties. He looked at me and said coldly, "Being driven out of the prince's manor doesn't feel good, does it? If you had married me back then, no matter what, I would never treat you this way, and I wouldn't let a Yuan overstep you." I nodded. "I believe you, of course I believe what you are saying." He took a deep breath. "Then why did you break off the engagement and marry another?" I thought for a second and smiled with utmost sincerity. "It is probably because I don't really like my husband getting up before dawn every day to patrol. Your rank is too low. His rank is high. So I'll give in to him. Just endure it. Just endure it." Thinking about it this way, forget it. I am actually quite happy. He flew into a rage. "You'll regret this, actually. You are the one who regrets it. That is why you keep saying this." "I understand, but please put me down. I am about to become a mother. It is quite annoying." The wet nurse trotted over, happily saying, "Miss, hurry back. The palace has sent more things." I smiled and bid farewell to Shui Tingyuan, whose face was ashen. Days passed comfortably like this. Every day I ate and slept. Slept and ate, then was urged by the wet nurse to take walks. Xiaolinan came more and more frequently. In the end, he was even unwilling to return to the prince's manor, directly moving all his living things over. Since I left, Xiaolinan handed over all household management to another concubine Len from a prominent family. Concubine Len took over the regulations I had previously managed, quickly got the hang of it, and everything inside and outside the manor ran smoothly. Shu Shu couldn't sit still anymore, causing trouble every few days. False accusations and humiliation came in turns, even calling her a hen that doesn't lay eggs. Concubine Lin's family wasn't to be trifled with either. The two families made a fuss about divorce, and Grand Tutor Lin frantically impeached Xiaolinan at court for doting on Shui Shu. The other concubines who had suffered under Shui Shu's torment also wouldn't stand for it anymore. They also had their fathers and brothers at court impeach Xiaolinan. With my father's support, Xiaolinan had smooth sailing for years, and this was the first time he encountered such a betrayal. It was also the only time my father didn't stand up to speak for him, but instead claimed illness and stayed away from court. Xiaolinan went to see my father, but my father wouldn't see him. Left with no choice, he came to find me, wanting me to be his intermediary, and persuade my father to help him. I returned to the capital with him, but didn't expect that my father wouldn't even see me. The steward by my father's side came out and said in front of Xiaolinan, "Young miss, why have you come back? Go back quickly. The master said that once you give birth to the child, you'll divorce the prince." Xiaolinan's face turned deathly pale. "No, let me see uncle." I tugged at Xiaolinan. "You go back. Leave father to me. I'll persuade him for you." Xiaolinan looked panicked. He was finally starting to feel afraid. He didn't know that matters of the inner quarters could have such deep repercussions. After he left, I knelt outside the door. I knelt for an hour before my father let me in. As soon as I entered, my father hurriedly had the physician examine me. "It is just an act. Kneeling for a bit is enough." "What are you kneeling so long for? If I don't kneel long enough, how can I make him believe it?" After that, I used the same method to get the fathers of several concubines who had shut their doors and refused to see Xiaolinan to open their doors. When Xiaolinan found out, he rushed over, his eyes red, and knelt down with me to admit our mistakes. He was a prince, and as soon as he knelt, the doors immediately opened. My father returned to court, and the several officials also changed from their previous anger and began to speak favorably. It is normal for men to be a bit romantic. Now that the third prince has reformed, it is this old minister's fortune. His Majesty originally didn't think there was anything wrong with his son being a bit romantic either. He was also a philanderer. The matter was resolved. The censors stopped bothering him, so naturally he didn't take it to heart anymore. That night, Xiaolinan personally applied medicine to me. Looking at the bleeding wound on my knee, his eyes couldn't help but redden. "Ah Sheng, thank you. Cousin, you are first my cousin, then my husband. Only when you are well will I be well." Since I married you, I've committed myself to you. Whatever I do for you is only right." He grabbed my shoulders and held me in his arms, unable to hold back his tears. "Cousin, I will treat you well from now on, and will never again favor concubines over my wife." So he knew all along that he had been favoring concubines over his wife, 10 months of pregnancy, 1 day of childbirth. After Shui Shu gave birth to a son, she was sent to a manor to be confined. The child was brought to concubine Lin to be raised. In order to let concubine Lin raise the child without reservations, Xiaolinan issued an order saying, "From now on, whoever speaks of it, this child was born to Consort Lin, and Consort Lin is his birth mother." Consort Lin thanked him for his grace, but still felt uneasy. All these years Xiaolinan had been like this. Each time he'd scold Shui Shu a few times, give her the cold shoulder for a few days. Then after a while, he'd remember her good points again, and resume favoring her. Taking advantage of when His Majesty was on the Eastern campaign to suppress the rebels and Xiaolinan was so busy supervising the state, he barely touched the ground. She had someone put medicine in Shui Shu's meals, and I pretended not to know. This was the leverage she gave me, and also her token of allegiance. After months of fierce battle, His Majesty died on the way back to the capital, and Xiaolinan smoothly ascended the throne. And I became empress, while several consorts were also enfoffed as imperial consorts. My son was also formally invested as crown prince. As Consort Lin had predicted, in the 6th month after Xiaolinan's ascension, he once again thought of Shui Shu at night. He had someone secretly bring Shui Shu back to the palace. He said to me, "Ah Sheng, I can't forget her." I laughed. In a previous dynasty, there was an emperor who took a fancy to his daughter-in-law, announced to the public that she had died, sent her to a Taoist temple to recuperate, and several years later brought her back to the palace and made her a consort. "If your Majesty truly can't forget her, then do it this way." He held me tight. "Ah Sheng, you truly understand me perfectly." I neither confirmed nor denied it, but when he actually saw Shui Shu, his expression changed drastically, and even his voice was trembling. "Who are you?" "A Shu." Shu, who was almost 3 times as fat as he was, said while panting for breath, "Your Majesty, I am a Shu. How did you eat yourself into this state?" Cold sweat dripped down Xiaolinan's forehead, and he hastily had people send her back. When Consort Lin came to my palace to talk about this matter, she laughed until tears came out. I really thought it was true love. I had even prepared myself if he saw the 300-pound Shui Shu and still doted on her as before, I would accept it, even if he wanted to take the eldest prince I've been raising until now and give him to Shui Shu. I would accept it, but I never expected it couldn't withstand such a test. Frightened by the shadow of Shui Shu, Xiaolinan didn't enter the rear palace for quite some days. When he wasn't indulging in beauties, he was a very dedicated emperor. The crown prince was personally taught by him. Father began to delegate power at this time, he told me. His Majesty has ascended the throne, and the Song family has become imperial relatives by marriage, no longer his kin. You must be mindful of propriety in your words and actions. I nodded. Father sighed and said, "His Majesty loves beauties, and there will surely be no shortage of children in the rear palace in the future." I said it back then, it is lonely at the top. Your mother wouldn't listen to me and insisted you marry him. I remained silent, letting Father instruct me. What I didn't tell Father was that Xiaolinan would never have children again. The kind of grievance I suffered once was enough. I won't let him have a second chance. I just need to endure another 10 years, and then I'll be completely free. I made a 10-year calendar, counting down the days every day, waiting for my good days to come. In the 3rd year of Xiaolinan's reign, it was time for the triennial selection of concubines. He was really looking forward to this selection. In the palace, there were only a few consorts and beauties who had followed him from his princely manor, and he was already sick of them. Like him, I was also very much looking forward to it. When the bell rang and rows of women stepped forward steadily, raising their plain yet dignified faces, Xiaolinan's face immediately fell. He liked the seductive type like Shui Shui, deliberately went against his wishes. By the end of the selection, Xiaolinan resignedly kept a few young ladies from prominent families and sent all the rest away. I comforted him. Your Majesty, it'll be better at the next selection. He perked up. I'll go review the memorials now. He didn't know that 3 years later would be another 3 years. As long as I am alive, he'll never get to be distracted by beauty or let it affect state affairs. He must properly manage my son's kingdom before my son can smoothly ascend the throne.